Hey guys, Stealth here and welcome to Starsector. This is a game that I have spent dozens of hours playing over the last couple of weeks. Initially, when a patron suggested it, I had a look at it and was like, meh. And then I went and posted a poll on YouTube a couple of days or a couple of weeks ago saying, hey guys, what other games should I be playing on the channel? And many people started upvoting Starsector. And I thought, okay, fine, I'll have another look. Starsector is not something you'll find on Steam. It's developed by Fractal, and it's an independent developer. It has been in development for a long time, and it is still actively being worked on, and it just keeps getting better. Now, if you have ever played any of the X games, like X2, X3, Albion Prelude, X2 The Threat, I think it was, X2 TC, Terran Conflict, it's a game a bit like that. It is 2D, bit of like you can see the ships behind me in the background. It has exploration, it has combat, it has a whole in-game economy, it has, well, depending on how many mods you put in, hundreds and hundreds of different ships that you can actually add to your fleet. There is so much to go over that I'm not going to be able to do that in one video. I'm going to be starting a new game. Now, this is a mixed game, so please keep that in mind. Sorry, it's a modded game. This means that there are quite a few mods, and I'll link those down below in the description. First, we're going to set up the character, Nelson Damus. Now, let's going to continue. This already, by the way, is a mod. It's the Nexerelin mod. It makes the whole universe feel a bit more alive. Next, we're going to start playing. Now, I'm going to enable random core worlds to change the map, and this is something that I'll explain in a bit. I am going to pick a random faction to play around with, and I'm going to go with a small combat group. You can also start out with a very tiny basic frigate. You can start out, if you want to, with a carrier. It's up to you what you want to start out with. I'm going to be apparently part of the Arrakis Reparation Society, or the ANS, which is fine for me. I'm going to start at the ensign rank, which means I get 20,000 credits to my name, and I get 1 level, and that will be it. I'm not going to have any heavy debt that I want to pay off, so let's begin. Alright, what we have here is my character and my skills. There are a lot of different skills that you can pick from. The top row is basically combat that benefits your character and your ship. So in this case, you can see that it says affected pilot ship. Affects piloted ship. So it's going to give me more maneuverability, it's going to give me more top speed. I generally don't even bother with this top row of skills. The second row of skills is more interesting. At least, that's my opinion. This is the leadership tree. And with these skills, you can make all the ships in your fleet better, if they have officers. Some of them even work if you do not have officers. The technology tree is more about how to get around things faster. So not only how to get around the world faster, but also being able to deal more damage with energy weapons. You're going to be able to do some electronic warfare, which messes with the enemy weapon range. The last one is industry. It's a bit of a catch-all for everything else, but it's mostly focused around economy. So with bulk transport, for example, I can have more cargo capacity on my ships. With salvaging, I can get more salvage. With things like industrial planning, colonies, which is basically a planet that you own, are going to be able to create more things. All of these I find to be very valuable early game. So I'm going to go with salvaging, because I'm probably going to play a bit as a salvager. And here we are. Welcome to Starsector. We are currently in a system. If you have a look at the system, you can see a couple of weird blobs and icons. It's a star sector, or a star system, so we have a red giant in the middle. We have a couple of planets orbiting this place. A barn world, another barn world. There is a rocky metallic world over here. There is a pirate world over there. And we have a couple of these jump points. Now, these jump points allow you to go to the map at large. To the whole sector. Because this is just one tiny bit of the whole place. Over here, the ones that you can see that actually have a name, the stars that have these things in them, if you will, these are the core worlds. And this is what I just did when I set up the game. These are the randomly generated middle core areas. Some of these are mod created, such as Sidnalta, which normally isn't there. A couple of these other races, such as the Diable Avionics, are not normally into the game, but you can add so many mods. The game is extremely mod friendly. And that is something I really love, because it means you can keep adjusting as you see fit. Now, what you can do is up to you. The game does have a story. I'm not going to go into that too much now. What you can do is basically whatever you want to do. You can do combat, if you so desire. At some point, it's going to become somewhat inescapable. You will have to fight your way through certain obstacles. If you want to explore, you can do that. You can see that this star has been fully surveyed. The Tahlan star system. But something over here, Bezel, a blue giant, 13 light years away, has not yet been explored. So I can go in here and see what there is to explore. If I want to play different, I can play as a trader, and I can have a look at what this place has to offer. Let's have a look. We have, again, all sorts of different modded items, so don't expect all of these to show up if you're running a vanilla game. All these items are required by industries on planets. So, for example, domestic goods are required to keep the people happy. This is sort of simplification, but that's kind of the extent of it. If you want to get rich, you can start trading these. So if you have a look at the domestic goods and you press F1, you can see that there is a place called Nymer from the Hegemony in the Zanta Chase system, which sells these for 29. And then you can sell them to Micholia, which is where I'm currently at. Micholia. And they will buy it for 42. So there is profit to be made. What you do with that money is entirely, again, up to you. It's a sandbox game. You want to spend it on new beautiful ships? By all means, go for it. You want to be able to get your first couple of colonies going? Sure, go for it. You have options. You can also play as a bounty hunter, and this is going to involve a certain level of risk. Sometimes you might see bounties popping up. Factions want people dead. Over here, for example, in this particular sector, the star system, the faction called VRI has a reward on a certain number of ships. They pay you 1,800 bucks to kill a frigate, but that is a standing bounty, so this is going to last for another 2 months or 58 days. They are hostile to the pirates, to the Luddic Path, the Luddic Church, and the Hegemony. So if you kill any of those ships, you're going to get rewarded by the VRI. You can also decide, well, I'm going to take on something a little bigger. Somebody wants this one dead. Just eliminate the target. The Syndrian Dictate, in this case, is the quest giver, if you will. They're willing to pay 74k, which would be a heck of a lot of money, considering that I currently have 20k. Now, they have a couple of ships that they know are in that fleet. Currently, I simply don't have the ships available to take these guys out. It's way too much firepower for me to handle at the moment. So for me, at the moment, going for bounty hunting is extremely risky. Maybe with a couple of new ships, I can take on these bounties. Now, this one might be a bit hard at 74. There's also one at 50. They just have a couple of frigates that they want me to kill. And that should be a bunch more doable. I have 89 days to complete this quest. How do you engage these guys? Well, you send in the ships. What ships? These ships. Currently, I have 3 ships in my fleet. This is my starter fleet. I have the Belisama, the Interstellaration, and the Bellis. If you click on the refit button, you can see that my ship has a couple of different weapon systems on it, and they all have their own firing arc. This pellet gun, for example, has a really good firing arc. This one, the Monogram Railgun, has a decent firing arc of, let's say, about 115 degrees, but cannot defend the ship if something comes behind me. So that, for this particular ship design, is risky. If you have something behind you, you're going to have to turn the ship around in order to engage that threat. Because if they're behind you, there's a fairly decent chance they'll attack your engines, and when they do that, you're dead in the water. You'll not be able to go anywhere. You'll be basically at the mercy of your enemies. Now, there's a very, very deep combat system that I'll not go into right now. The things that you need to know as a bit of a core is that the game has this, let's say, resource that's called flux. Flux is something you build up as you fire a weapon. The more, let's say, the bigger the weapon, most of the time, the more it's going to cost flux to fire. So this monogram railgun says in the middle of the screen, flux per second, 66. If you fire this weapon consistently, it's going to cost you 66 flux per second. Some other weapons, like this string MRM, medium range missile, is not going to cost you much at all because it's a missile. The pellet gun is going to cost you 800 flux per shot, or 178 flux per second. Also costing you flux is keeping your shield up, and also getting hit is going to cost you some flux. Now, what you need to be aware of is that your shield flux, so the amount of flux that your shields generate per second, plus the amount of weapons that you fire per second, is going to add up. And this means that in about a second, I generate about 700 flux. Now, thankfully, I can go up to 7,800 flux in my capacity. So I can keep going with firing for a while without having to worry that my ship is going to just burn down. Or in this game, they call that overload. In the meanwhile, I'm also dissipating flux as I fire my guns. It doesn't work all the time, and I'll go into this more in a different video as we're actually doing some combat. But as you're fighting, you'll also be able to vent some of that flux. You'll be able to get rid of some of it. This is one of the core mechanics of the game. Another part, as you're looking at building your ship, is that you can add hull mods. And this is where you can go with endless amounts of variation. Endless amounts of customization and endless amounts of making your ship and your fleet feel just right. Because maybe you don't want this pellet gun. Maybe you don't want to have a big gun that engages shields. Maybe you want to have an ion beam that does more EMP damage. And EMP damage shuts down enemy weapon systems, it shuts down enemy propulsion, stuff like that. Again, I'll go into weapons more in a different video. You have so many options, and then to consider, this is just the weapons that I can buy at this port. But there are so many. Like, it's absolutely bizarre the amount of ships that you can get. If you look at the codex, this is the ship list that are... That's all the different ship types, right? And that's not even conclusive. Because there are still ships that are not in the codex. Ships that you have to discover. Ships that, well, let's say the game's codex, so let's say the library, doesn't even know about. There are so many of these ships. You got freighters, you have destroyers, missile destroyers. We have the Death Barge. Some of these are basically thrown together by pirates, which have scrapped a whole bunch of ships. Taken a big welder and started putting ships back together with all sorts of scrapyard stuff. And this is generally the type of things that you end up with. You can go with a full-blown carrier. There are cruisers, there are light carriers, there are missile frigates, there are light logistics ships. You have patrol craft, you have light gunships, missile cruisers. It just goes on and on and on. And keep in mind that more mods, as you add them, can change what ships are available. So if you have a specific type, a specific faction that you think have really cool ships, then by all means, have a look at those. Now, I think it's time to actually start getting something done. So let's see. Take a shuttle down to the dockside bar and see if there's anything that is currently going on. I can join the table of tattooed roughs and see if their contract is up. Now, tattooed roughs are mercenaries. Mercenaries are basically soldiers you can buy, and you can then send them out to do, well, your bidding, shall we say. I could, for example, consider my military options here, and I can try and launch a raid against this station, or against this planet. And raiding something is going to allow you to get their resources, and potentially even some more artifacts from that particular planet. You can also do orbital bombardment. Right now I can't, because I still have to defeat the fortress and its defenders. which is way more than I can currently take on. But these are some of the options that you can get if you start getting Marines. For now, let's see if we can find some decent trade. Is there something... Yeah, look at this. I can buy this for pretty cheap. And I can go to the Zante trading post by the Hegemony, 8 light years away, and I can sell it for about double. Now, that looks great on paper. However, bottom left-hand side says I have 112 out of 180 cargo capacity. So, while that might be great to be able to send 7,000 parts of food that way, I cannot transport that much. I simply don't have the transport capability. The same for the rest, but there are some things that you can generally sell for pretty good margins. Let's say harvested organs. There's a market in healthy organs, as the game say, and always a source if one doesn't ask too many questions. I can try and get, let's say, about 60 of these. Or 70. No, it's a bit too much. 60. That's going to cost me 16k because I'm also paying 18% in tariffs. If you don't want to pay tariffs, you can decide to skip that and go to the black market. That is going to remove the tariffs, but it will raise some suspicion. And some parts of the sector are, well, let's say they don't like you shipping around harvested organs. They kind of frowned upon that thing. So you might get a ship that's going to come after you, inspect you and go, hey dude, you can't do that. And you're going to lose reputation with that particular faction. I, for one, I'm going to just get a couple of these harvested organs. We shall not ask too many questions, and we're going to bring this along. Before I do that, though, I am very curious to see, yeah, the unit price is going to be 276. So it might look cheap right here, 232. But the more that you buy, the more this becomes a problem. Because you can see if I buy all of it, it's going to cost me 297 unit price. If I buy a little, it's going to cost me 276. So this way you can also very much influence the economy. And there are other wonderful content creators who have messed with the economy, creating, for example, food shortages, drowning people in drugs. You can do really weird things with this game. And if you have a bit of an interest in manipulating economies, then this is definitely a game that you're going to find quite interesting. Anyway, before I'm able to go to the Zante trading post, I first want to see if I'm actually welcome there. So let's have a look at the factions, and yeah, the Hegemony currently is hostile to me. So this is not a faction that I can actually visit and sell my things to. Also because they consider this part to be illegal. They really do not want you to sell harvested organs. But, and this is where the drama comes in, there is a demand for this particular part. So they, yeah, like they might not be willing to admit that they want it, but there is a demand. Anyway, if I'm paying about 276, I'm really not making a whole lot of money from that. Are there any other options that I have? I mean, there's always the option to go drug running, but right now the price here is very, very high. It's 227 because there's a local deficit on this place. So they actually want to bring recreational drugs to this place, which means that the price here is going to be very high, but the price elsewhere is going to be it's going to be fairly low. Now, let's see what other parts I can get. Anything else I might be able to get? I'm looking for large amounts, because that means the price is going to be fairly low. But by the looks of it, there's not too much interesting things going on. These, by the way, are weapons. They generally just buy and sell for the same price everywhere. At least that's been my experience, so don't really bother selling those things off. As for these weapons, heavy armaments, they're extremely expensive. I can buy them for 507, and I cannot sell them for anything more than that. So yeah, we're not going to do that. There are a couple of blueprints available, but that's way too expensive for what I currently have. So I guess it's time to head out. Now, as you're moving around, you're going to be doing some maintenance on your ship. Which means that the 90 that you see over here is the supplies that I have. but I'm using 0.47 supplies per day. If my ships take damage, because they have been in a fight, for example, that means that they will need repairs. And as they need repairs, you're going to be taking more and more supplies. If you run out of supplies, you're basically screwed, because you'll be unable to maintain your ships, and your ships are going to start to degrade, your ships are going to start to malfunction, and they might even blow up from poor maintenance. The next bar over here is fuel. I can go and carry 80 fuel, or at least 130. I have 80. If I'm traveling to, let's say, another place, I'm currently over here in the Dis star system. I can try and go, let's say, here. That's going to cost me some fuel. It's going to cost me 9.6 points of fuel. The farther you go, the more fuel it's going to take, naturally. Now, if you're going all the way out here, it is entirely possible that you'll not exactly find a gas station. So if you're going to go out there towards the edges of space, be very careful and bring a lot of fuel, or have a plan to come back. Now, what I do see here is that there is a mercantile transport, a mercantile convoy, which is going to Quarrick, which is not too far away. It is the Carter's Freetraders, which I believe I am peaceful to, so I should be able to go there and assist them. The problem is, the mercantile convoys, they require protection. If they don't get protected, they will get engaged by pirates. And, well, if you are interested in playing as a pirate, you can. It's just not exactly an easy playstyle, but it can be a very fun one. So I've heard. Anyway, the mercantile convoy, I can try to offer my services to protect it. I don't, however, feel very confident that I'll actually be able to do much in that sense. So let's see if I can actually find something else to trade. As I was en route to another planet over here, the Blost Dentalian Barren World from the pirates, I saw that there was some fighting going on. And I found 2 derelict ships. There's a light destroyer and a corvette drifting around. Let's have a look. You can explore these derelict ships, and you can even recover them. Considering that I basically have no fleet at the moment, any additional ship is valuable. Now, ships that have been in combat and have basically been disabled are, most of the time, a bit damaged. So, over down at the bottom of the part, you can see hull mods, monkey model, as well as unreliable subsystems, which has a D next to it. Now, this is basically a detractor, a debuff to this ship. So some parts of the ship might not be that reliable. But most of the time, if you find a derelict ship, it has 3, 4, 5 subsystems that have been extremely badly damaged. This thing only has 1. So I'm going to bring this thing with me. The other one is a corvette. Yes, yes. Let's explore this one. This corvette, yeah, this thing has a compromised armor, it has a damaged weapons mount, it has degraded life support and erratic fuel injector. So a lot is wrong with this particular ship. I'm going to say I don't want this ship, and I'm going to start to salvage it, and I can get some parts from it. Supplies keep you alive, fuel keeps you going, and heavy machinery is generally there to start salvaging more ships. I even found some metals and a monogram railgun. Not particularly valuable, but hey, that's 400 that I basically got for free. Now, with this, my crew is under strength, because I now no longer have enough crew to man all of my ships. So I'm going to mothball this ship. That's basically, I mean, we're dragging it along, but we're not actually crewing it. Which means that you can't use it in fights, you can't use its cargo capacity, you're not really going to be able to bring much out of it. Except for when you get more crew. So let's do that. Oh, right, it's a pirate base. Pirate bases, they tend to... how shall I put this? They tend to favor anonymity. And over here at the bottom, you have a transponder. I've currently turned it off. And it basically is your license plate. Who are you? That's what this thing is transmitting. The pirates don't like it when you're transmitting that. So I've turned it off. And now all of a sudden I am welcome to this pirate base. So let's get some crew. I need 46 crew members. I only have 41. So we're going to buy a couple of crew members here. As for that ship, I can now draw it out of mothballs, but with that I'm still not having enough crew, so we're going to have to add a few more guys. 71 for 71, there we go. And now let's see what the ship can do. It does come armed with a heavy needler, which is a good weapon against any kind of shield. I don't like this shield flux per damage, which basically means if the ship takes more damage, you're going to get a whole lot more flux. And flux, if you remember, is the resource that in combat dictates how much you can fire and essentially how much damage you can take before your shields go down. 1.1 is pretty bad. Now, I believe this does not have to do with the unreliable subsystems. And right now, there isn't a whole lot that I can do about it. But what I can try and do is either sell the ship off, or I can break it up for parts. So I can say, well, I'm just going to scuttle the ship and get some resources out of it, or I can just sell it off. Let's sell it off. I've changed my mind. I don't want to keep this ship. Now, this does mean I certainly have too much crew. So we're going to get rid of some of the crew members. There we go. And I've essentially made a little bit of money. As I'm looking through what this planet needs, which is drugs, I'm going to provide that. I need to go to Quark, which is in the Carter's Freetraders. It's 4.3 light years out. They'll be able to sell that to me at 140. I can sell it here for 294. That is quite the nice profit margin. That's a 2x, more or less. So let's head over there. So we're going to, where was it? Here, Quark. That's where we're going, and that's where we're going to get some resources. As we're traveling to this new planet, we're going into hyperspace. Hyperspace is basically a place where you can quickly traverse from one star sector to another, or star system. You can also have combat going on in here, and somebody has been fighting. So there's another derelict ship over here, and there's a wolf frigate. Those are generally quite useful. So I'll gladly bring that along. Alright, let's bring that. Continue on our way to Quark. Let's get these resources. Now, Quark is 3600 from the star. It's 3600 from that star. Yeah, I think it doesn't really matter. Oh, sorry, from the gravity well from the planet over here. Transponder on. There it is. Quark. Okay. Now, over here they sell this stuff for really cheap. It is a place that will impose some tariffs on you. It's not that much. It means 18%. It's fine. Let's bring quite a bit. 125. Confirm that. And I'm going to go right back. If you are in a star sector, or sorry, star system like this, and you don't have your transponder on, so your license plate, the game's going to sternly recommend that you turn that thing back on. Because if you don't, then the other factions that are currently in control of that star system are going to go, who's this guy? Is he smuggling something? What the hell is that? And they will try and stop you. And they generally don't like it when you're not flying around with your transponder on. So be very careful. It is, however, possible to try and sneak up onto a planet and be able to, for example, smuggle resources in without getting detected. But that's, let's say, another playstyle. It's more a smuggling run. What I'm currently doing is anomalous day trading. Let's put it like that. Oh, forgot to turn the transponder off. Here we go. Now sell this off, and all of a sudden we're sitting on 41k. You can do this quite a bit if you want to make a good chunk of money. It's a nice way to go about it. Now that's where I'm going to leave you with this first part. There will definitely be more Star Sector videos, because I am really enjoying the game. Like, I can spend this playing, I don't know, hours a day. Many hours in a row. I will start playing at, let's say, 7 in the evening. And then all of a sudden it's 11:30 and I go, what the... Okay. That's how much it's absorbing me. I hope that you will like it too. There's going to be more videos, as I mentioned. If you want to get the game for yourself, link down below in the description. It is not sponsored, it's not an affiliate link. It's just a game that I think is extremely well crafted It is not by a AAA studio, it's by an independent developer who's doing it outside of Steam. And even though it might look old, or at least that's what I thought initially, I find it extremely good. Let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comment section, and I look forward to seeing you guys back on the next Starsector video.